Greetings again everyone. 7Artisans are a lens manufacturer with a track history of making various very low budget optics, often manual focus lenses. Today they appear to be releasing a higher quality autofocus lens for Sony E-mount cameras, the 7Artisans 85mm f1.8 AF. It's a full frame lens just for Sony's E-mount cameras initially. Its price will be about $299 US. I'd like to thank 7Artisans for sending me a copy of this lens for testing, although as usual this is a totally independent review. We'll be looking at both its strengths and its weaknesses. $299 is a very reasonable price for an autofocus 85mm f1.8 full frame lens. Lenses like this not only tend to offer good image quality, but also get you quite stunning pictures overall, especially for portrait work. On a full-frame camera, they can get you an especially out-of-focus background. This 7Artisans offering is about an average size and weight for a lens of this type, being just over 430 grams, but the metallic build quality is a cut above, feeling lovely and solid. Unfortunately, no weather sealing can be seen here, although we do at least get a metallic lens mount with a USB-C port for future firmware updates. At the side we get an auto manual focus switch as well as an aperture ring. That aperture ring turns smoothly without clicks and a little less heavily than on the earlier 50mm lens that I've tested before. It does have a very slight click to turn it to automatic mode, but that click is so gentle it often seems to wander out again, which can be annoying. Then comes the metallic focus ring, which also turns extremely smoothly. The focus motor's response to the focus ring being turned is fine, perhaps just a little slow, but as you can see here, the lens also suffers from quite obvious focus breathing, which can be annoying for video makers at this sort of focal length. The lens's autofocus motor works smoothly, silently and accurately. It's a little on the slow side whether you're shooting in single shot or continuous autofocus mode. The lens's filter thread size is 62mm and it comes with a basic little plastic hood. Overall, the build quality is quite adequate here for a lower budget lens, certainly a step above cheaper plastic lenses, although the aperture ring is a bit awkwardly made for stills photography. Okay, let's look at image quality, and we'll start on a full frame camera, my Sony a7R III, with its 42MP sensor. In-camera corrections are turned on here. In the middle of the image at f1.8 we see very good sharpness and contrast right away, with no real purple fringing. Let's look over in the corners. Those corners are noticeably softer, with some colour fringing on contrasting edges. Oddly, stepping down to f2.8 seems to increase that softness in the corners, but the middle of the image now looks perfectly sharp. Strange. At f4 the middle looks just as brilliant as usual, but the corners are still quite soft. If this was just a curved plane of field, then that should have corrected itself by now. f5.6 looks about the same, but at f8 the worst of the chromatic aberration seems to fix itself. It stays this sharp down to f11, where the effects of diffraction soften the image. So, on a full frame camera, it's a rather strange performance here. The lens is brilliantly sharp in the middle with great contrast, but the corners are looking a little rough. Still, many portrait photographers won't mind. Well, let's see how well the lens works on a 24MP aps-c camera now. At f1.8 we're still seeing good sharpness and contrast in the middle, but a touch of purple fringing is slightly apparent here. Some good news is that the aps-c sweet spot advantage is visible over in the corners. Any bad image quality there has been cropped out, leaving us with a very sharp image there too. Stop down to f2.8 for corner image quality to become perfect, and the middle looks fantastic now too. No more colour fringing. At f4, the middle is perfectly sharp now, and so are the corners. Again, the lens stays this sharp down to f11, and f16 looks very soft, due to diffraction. Well, isn't that nice though? Turns out that on a cropped aps-c sensor, the lens's image quality is absolutely excellent, all that corner weirdness being cropped out. Okay, let's turn off in-camera corrections and take a look at distortion and vignetting on full frame. A small amount of pincushion distortion is visible here, but vignetting at f1.8 is worryingly high. Stop down to f2.8 or f4 for those corners to brighten up, so that's a totally average performance. The lens focuses slightly closer than average for a fast 85 down to 80cm. At f1.8, close-up image quality is now pretty soft. You have to stop down to about f4 to get critical sharpness back again. Okay, well, how about work against bright light? It's just an average performance here. We don't really get that much in the way of flecks of flaring, but an obvious glare pops up when a bright light is on the edge of the image frame. You should definitely use the lens's supplied hood to hopefully tame that down a bit. An important question for this lens is obviously the quality of its bokeh. It's great news here. This lens's out-of-focus backgrounds are beautifully soft in just about every situation I could throw at it, although we do get the usual cat's eye shape to bokeh balls in the edges of the frame at the maximum aperture. And finally, related to bokeh comes longitudinal chromatic aberration. At f1.8, the close-up image quality is soft, but you can still see that colour fringing is there. At f2.8 it's greatly reduced though, and at f4 it's gone. Overall, well, the 7Artisans is quite a pleasing performer considering the very low price you're paying for it, but it does have some oddities to be aware of. Its biggest problem is certainly softness in your image corners on a full frame camera, which will be very annoying if you're shooting a flat subject. But anyone shooting portrait pictures with out-of-focus backgrounds won't notice this at all really, and if you're shooting on an aps-c camera with its cropped sensor, then its image quality is fantastically sharp from corner to corner. So on an aps-c camera, actually, I can highly recommend this lens for the money you're paying here. On a full frame camera though, you should think about how much you need critical corner image quality before going for this one. If you don't need sharp corners, then actually you'll probably be very pleased with this thing, especially for only $300 US. Alright, thanks for watching everyone. I've done a little check and my best guess is that this is the 42nd 85mm lens review I have ever published. My gosh, the market really is flooded with them. But heck, they're just so fun and useful, aren't they? Special thanks to my Patreon supporters. Your support has been keeping this channel going sponsorship free for years now, and supporters get all kinds of exclusive bonus content, not to mention early access to a lot of my videos. Check it out in the description below, and ciao for now everyone.